So, can you maybe tell us a bit about Freie Arbeiterstimme? Your parents were involved in that.
Yeah, the Freie Arbeiterstimme. We got. It was a weekly. It came out every week, at that, and my father was, and it was put out by a group by Jewish anarchists, and there were Yiddish groups all around the United States that's kind of supported it. Have you ever seen a copy of the paper? I have some. I have one or two stuck away. I will.
Great.
If you want to stop and I can get it. I think I can find it and show it to you, but I can do it later on too.
Okay.
And so they read that, and there were always events and there were lectures. Rudolf Rocker, that's a name you might know. Okay. So he had come to the United States. Sometimes at that time he came, actually the first time he came he hadn't emigrated here yet, because I can remember as a little kid when he came and I was like 4 years old, and I can remember there was a big picnic and he was there and he was speaking, and he spoke Yiddish. And so he anyway, those early years, later on, he would come once a year, and the evening before Yom Kippur, he would speak, always give a lecture on anarchism or something at the Shalom Aleichem. That was once a year. He was at least there once a year giving a lecture. And then they were always raising money. There was always some kind of affair for raising money. So it was a real cultural atmosphere for me. They'd have annual bazaars for a couple of days, which were a lot of fun. I can remember them being a lot of fun. There was food and there was dancing and there was singing. And my parents always, there was just a lot of gathering and mostly raising funds. They were mostly raising funds for various things all the years that I can remember. And the paper had articles by, they had things from Emma Goldman, and they had things from August Suchi, and they had things from Berkman. Yeah, these people were all still alive, and they were all writing. So there was, a lot of, and I would read all the stuff that was in the paper. I don't know. I don't know about how the Federation functioned. I don't know exactly how that functioned. I know my father would go to a Federation meeting, once a month. I know that. I can remember him. It was a Friday night. He was never home on Friday nights because he was at the Federation meeting. And when I was a little kid, really. I don't know what else I can tell you about the Arbeiterstimme.
And you said there were lots of anarchists from all over Europe there, like the Yiddish anarchists and Italian anarchists.
But they were involved. Yeah, there were a lot of. Yeah, there were a lot of anarchist papers being published. There was a Yiddish anarchist paper, the Freie Arbeiterstimme. There was Cultura Proletaria, which is a Spanish anarchist paper. In fact, later on, our group, when we published, when I left when the van got folded and the other group, when I met my friend from Temple University, and I got in touch with the Italian anarchists, and by that time we were meeting together, and And so they put out the La Donata dei Repertori, and there was Il Martello coming out, and there was the Yellow Truda, there was a Russian paper coming out. So there were a lot of, and then when we came out to California, we met a group of Chinese anarchists out here. They weren't publishing a paper, but there were a group of Chinese anarchists living in San Francisco that we met. They were speaking English, of course, but they were Chinese. So there was a lot of, and not much English. My parents got an English paper called The Road to Freedom when I was young, published by Harry Kelly. And then later on, my parents got them, and and I read. At that time, I was already reading that. And then Man came out, published by Marcus Graham. In fact, that came out from Oakland. I don't know. He was a cause célèbre too, because they tried to deport him. They never could find where he lived. So he remained here until he died as an old man. And that was Man. It was, I don't know if you've ever seen, I have a book that has some of the reprints from Man. If you want me to show it to you now, I can show it to you now. Otherwise, you can remind me later.
Yeah, let's do that later. And then you have all this. I mean, you were 16, right, during the Spanish Revolution.
Yeah, I was 16, 1936. I wasn't even quite 16 yet, because my birthday's in the end of the year. I was born in 1920. So, and I was very excited about the Spanish Revolution. Really, really excited by it. And
like, did you have a lot of information about that? Like,
well, at that time, then, what was coming, an English paper came out then. Oh, see, then the Vanguard group had split, because as I told some of the people, there was a lot of splits, not so much because of ideology, but personal, Somebody fell in love with somebody else's woman, and they couldn't stand each other, and there were a lot of that kind of separations going on. So the Vanguard split at that time, and the Vanguard continued, and I don't remember now the name of the other paper that was published at the same time. I don't remember that name. But then, during the Spanish Revolution time, the two groups got back together again and published a paper called The Spanish Revolution. And so then there were, and then, some people came from Spain, and there were lectures and meetings, to support the revolution. Is that my answering your question?
Yeah.
Oh, how much?